sometimes we do some verification. I remember, for example, last week I was out somewhere in the coast, and as a project they said was 80% complete. And when I got there, certainly some work had been done, but it's been a long while. So clearly there are areas that might require validation and so on. But overall, we're trying to get a single index that will tell us, are we 50%, 60%? That's what people are looking for. For now, we have variable indices. Well, how have we done on roads? How have we done on water? How are we doing on aspects of agriculture? So I do not have a comprehensive indicator I can give right now. But we are going to do a very realistic assessment of what has gone well and what has not gone so well. Because we need to understand what has gone well, and we can do more of it as we look way beyond 2030, which we shall soon begin doing. And we shall also then have to question ourselves, why did we not get things right? Why did things not go so well? We are at a time now as we speak, when particularly food prices were quite high for various reasons, as people might know, sometimes they forget. We had COVID, and agricultural activities really did suffer that time. Then, and that was 2 years in a row. And then we had the drought, overarching drought. So our production levels were quite low. And so income too was also low because jobs were lost and so on. It's a combination with that and among other things that has created havoc for us. Now, of course, we're adding in Russia and Ukraine. Who knew that Russia and Ukraine would matter for us? And they're saying, well, all petroleum-based products, fertilizer, things like that, and oil and so on are affected, so prices have gone up very high. We also tax them heavily. That makes a bad situation even worse. Those combinations are short-term blips and really not part of the long-term vision on this. And then we're hoping that as we analyze better and implement consistent policy, we will be able to weather these problems. They always come, but they shouldn't be as severe or as worrisome as this has been. So the outcome on status of Vision 2030 is still mixed, but just give me another month or 6 weeks perhaps, we will have some quantitative data that I would like to share. And I don't have my colleague here, yes, he's right here. He'll make sure he assembles you back at some stage and we're able to discuss a quantitative outcome of the status.
So thank you. The next question that I wanted to ask, you have already answered.
Oh,
you have said you give you around 6 months, but thank you for that. But so far, since you came in, what are the challenges that you are facing during the implementation of the strategies for the Vision 2030?
Because Vision 2030 is coordinating independent agencies that have a mandate and a budget to do what they're supposed to do, that read directly what the government policy is. They stick with the targets that they themselves agreed to achieve by 2030. And Vision is simply collecting this information. They cooperate quite a lot, so we don't have a big problem there. And sometimes using their own analysis and assessments, sometimes doing some topping up assessments, and trying to bring everything together. That is, it requires a lot of continuous interaction. And the capacity in Vision 2030 is small. Vision 2030 is a lean institution which relies on good analytics to come from the sectors, so that their work will be integrative, because it would then be based on good work from each of the agencies. That bit has not really come through well. And the budget allocation, we can overcome the lean institutional capacity limitations through a better budget, and we can then bring in people on short term and others. Human component is very important. And of course, you can make at least some of it. But they are doing a great job. There's a great job despite that. There's no one in that institution that is idle. And if we all work like that, we would be very lean and very efficient institutions. I think that is what I see in Vision 2030.
My name is Don from Channel 7, and my question is, what are you doing exactly to make sure that young people, because this is a long-term project that is happening. What are you doing, making sure that young people are part of it and they're engaged in a bigger way?
Yeah. Remember that the Vision 2030 is a program that was prepared 15 years ago or so. And each year, as programs get on board, they seek to meet the criteria that they agreed at the beginning. Now, the youth component in Vision 2030 is still very, very important. What we should be doing better off is to say, what's the gender component in what's being done? Gender includes both male, female, but also the age variations and so on. Okay, when we talk about youth, PWD, and so on, is all part of gender. What is the gender status in our development programs? And clearly, the other day I was in a seminar in which the National Council for Population and Development said that the average age of a Kenyan is 17. Today I had 18, 20. That cannot be true. Let me take 17 as the true one, because it was said by the agency that is home to all the analytics around our population data, the demographic side of it. So the thrust of our development must contain, of necessity, the youth of it. Either how they participate in it in some cases, how what is being done will impact them, and we need, what we don't have very, very well in Kenya yet is the data tracking. To talk only about facts dictated by data, evidence. People tend to hold on to one item and they hang on to it for too long and it gets surpassed. But what I can assure you is that in the next phase of the long-term vision that we're going to have, we shall have a huge component on things that are where the youth have a huge comparative advantage, the creative economy, the digital economy, and so on. And we will be working with agencies in those sectors, all the way from sports to technology, to real sectors where the youth can participate in, and so on. And we hope we shall have a separate tracking mechanism for it.
Yeah, thank you. And lastly from me, let's talk about industrialization. One of the aims of the Vision 2030 is to transform Kenya into a newly industrializing and middle-income country, providing a high quality of life to all its citizens. And based on the current situation, you can see that we have high taxes, and the environment is not that conducive for the business sector and industries. What are the changes that the Vision 2030 program is trying to bring in that will change this sector, that we can say that after, when this 2030 reaches, you can say that these changes that were made, this was made here, that made the business sector to be conducive for those people in the business industry. So
yeah, I can say that I think in almost all over the world, nobody likes to pay taxes. I personally pay, but I don't like to pay taxes. Maybe it's the same. But even though that's how we feel about taxes, we still pay taxes, all across the world. I think in Kenya, the resistance to taxes is it's come at a time when the job losses have been significant, when the growth of exports, when the overall production indices are low, so people are unemployed, they are not receiving the income they normally receive. Maybe dependency rates have risen, I don't know. But when you increase any tax at that moment, then you are making a difficult situation at the household level even more difficult. I think that's why there is resistance. But I'm glad that people have accepted a fair number of changes in taxes, largely increases. Of course, fuel is obvious one. The increased taxation in technology, in communication, and so on. People are still making their calls. The telephone companies will tell us if the number of minutes has reduced or not. I don't know that it has. But at the same time, I'm finding a lot of creative sources of income that has come now, which also is attracting new taxes. It's expanding the base. Taxes are the revenue that we use to finance expenditures. In dealing with this kind of situation, you can't just look at how we raise revenue. You must also look at how to control expenditures. Is there something we don't need to do now? If you don't do it, you need that much less tax around it. And the feeling has been that maybe the cutback in taxes side has not been as aggressive as the attempt to increase revenue. I know when the president came in, he did have an austerity measure in which he cut, I think, 300 billion from the budget, and we all felt that would be a bit of a relief. But then new things came in to take place. That's why I think the taxes haven't come down as much as they should. Taxes have many dimensions, but two important ones are that are you increasing tax on the same item to collect a higher rate of tax than before, or are you expanding across to many new ones? We have a bit of both. On the fuel, it's tax upon earlier taxes that were high, but fuel prices globally are quite high. But because we are also going into new areas, people who never used to pay tax are now being affected, and they're resisting. I think after a while, after they get used to the idea they're paying taxes, and if services are going to be provided, maybe we shall stabilize about it.
Maybe, perhaps, just a quick one, because I know Vision 2030 is something that has seen so many two presidents, two former presidents and one current one.
Yeah.
And maybe my question is, with all these presidents, have they been part of this project? Are they engaging you so that they can be able to, so that you can be able to be in one level as you know, as the organizing team from Vision 2030 and the team on the presidential side? Are you working together as a team, or it's you know? It's
okay. Remember when the Vision 2030 started, the President Kibaki initiated that.
Yes.
And he gave it a lot of attention, and it had, as you remember, you may not remember, but it had a big impact at the time. Now everybody, the public and private sector, talks about the 2030 vision. That was a lot of work they did, and President Kibaki was a sound economist. He had been all his life, so he liked to sort of look at the long term, and he was patient enough to say you don't get there overnight, but you're building blocks to get there. You must make sure you're building those blocks, you're putting up those blocks. And when he left, the incoming president continued, President Uhuru continued it, but he didn't have the same zeal as the founder. But it did survive. There are elements of it that they didn't look at with great attention. But then he came in with Agenda 4, which was 4 key areas around health, around manufacturing, and so on, that he thought we should monitor that were most important. That has been done. This president has come in, and now he wants us to almost go back to the original idea of the vigor of the Vision 2030, but to go beyond. And we are looking at, we shall be looking out a further 30 years from 2030 to about 2063. Why 2063? One, it will coincide with the long-term vision of the AU, makes it easier for convergence with others. But more importantly for us, Kenya will be 100 at that time. So we'll be looking at Kenya at 100, which will be up to 2063. And now we're going to have a chance to relook at what we had looked at earlier. There are new activities that have come in, particularly because of technology, that might propel our economy in different directions and so on. The emphasis on youth is quite real, as you can see. And the youth are not just out there playing games. If they are doing so, we are also looking to games for income. People are playing all kinds of sports and athletics and so on. But they are also now entrepreneurs. So it's going to be a different world as we look further down. And remember, today's youth in 10 years is a married adult. So this is not a static thing. That youth thing is a different group coming in, but there will always be youth. I think the projected numbers, even in the 26-something, youth will still be more than 50%. People below 17 will still be about 50% of the population, which is a hell of a lot of youth. So we're going to have an economy driven by interests that serve the youth and the participation of the youth themselves increasingly. Now to do that, you have to keep them educated. For example, say expenditure on education will still be taking a significant part of what we do. But there are many aspects of it that we can explore on another occasion.
Maybe you, perhaps,
Is
maybe
a
the
colleague
last
of mine
one.
or somebody reminding us?
Yes, the last one. You perhaps have been the leader of this program. Was that one thing that you feel or you think that is you're going to achieve before 2030 that was there from the beginning? That one thing.
After 2030, that vision, remember we are only tracking and analyzing and so on. I think we're going to meet our targets in education, maybe surpass them a bit. In infrastructure development, that probably we shall surpass a bit. Now here people saying it's not just tarmac, because there's a lot of tarmac during that time. But without that tarmac, we felt that we were sort of a forest without roads and so on. But of course, we have to agree that infrastructure development alone is not enough to provide food at household level, but it's essential. It's an enabling factor. So I think we have done well with enablers, I would say. Okay? But on the day we launch that report, we'll have a whole day seminar, and we can ask all the questions, and each radio station can go off with what they want out of it. Get hold of this gentleman.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Nice
Let's
day.
have my colleague come and vote. You get in the touch at you.
No, how are you?
Very fine. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, personally, my name is Hilary Kabila from GVS TV Africa, and it's nice having you here.
Pleasure.
And thank you for being patient.
Not at all, not at all.
Yeah, so beginning with a brief introduction about yourself, we'd like you just to give us an overview so far of the Vision 2030 from where you come in.
Well, first of all, my name is Paul Akimomi. I'm the director for the Division for Africa, Least Developed Countries, and Special Programs at UNCTAD. And essentially we're here because not particularly coming here at this point, but we've been coming to Kenya for the last 2 years, is to sensitize the government and the civil society and the private sector about our new index that we've developed, the Productive Capacity Index. And essentially what that is that it's we look at the ability of the country to produce goods and services. And we've been able to find an index, develop an index, a multi-dimensional index that actually measures it, because it's important to measure it. And what is measuring is not the output, it's measuring the input required to produce goods and services. So that's energy, that is human capital, that's natural capital, that's institutions, to mention but a few. And when you look at this, it also looks at that this has to be done, there has to be interconnection between all of these things. It's vital that you cannot be on a sectoral approach. For development, you see an integrated approach for development. So the idea is that this index over the years is that afterwards, based on the data we get, we are able to develop a gap assessment. What are the gaps and what are the constraints for an economy to move forward? And then after that, we develop a program of support to actually deal with those gaps and constraints. And here now we are at the stage where we presented the gap assessment and also the program of support. And this has been done in conjunction with Vision 2030 and also all the technical experts of all the different ministries and everybody else, because it has to be owned by the government. And now we're finalizing things so that we can start with the implementation process of trying to deal with some of those gaps and constraints.
Yeah, thank you. So, if I'm not wrong, your department works in alignment with the SDG goal number 1, which is end poverty in all its forms everywhere, right? And in Kenya currently, we have seen we have a situation where civil servants, some are not sure to get their salary in time, some get even late, 3 months late, and also the cost of living is so high, whereby you can see the middle income earners are really going through tough times. And in relation to the Kenya Vision 2030, where do you think, where are we?
Well, I don't monitor where you are with Kenya 2030 vision, but I know it is very vital important. One has to recognize that development takes time. Development, it doesn't come in 5 years, it takes 10 to 30 years. And and it takes time. And you can see the countries, we've analyzed countries which have moved from lower middle income to upper middle income, or least developed country to low middle income, and this all takes time. So it is very important for government to have a long-term vision, clear objectives that it wants to try and reach. And I know the 2030 vision wants to have Kenya as an industrial hub. So the focus has been there. How you get there through different regimes is another story, but the focus needs to be there. And this is very critical for all governments to have a clear vision of where they want to go to. Now, the work that the cost of living crisis is global. There's a cost of living crisis everywhere in the world. And
Hello.
this has been
We are
brought
just about
about
to
by
begin,
also
so please
the
let's settle
COVID
down.
pandemic, also the problems that we're having globally. So everybody is suffering globally, and all governments are trying to figure out how the best way is to approach this issue and to move the country forward. So unfortunately, it is everybody's feeling pain right now, and governments are making decisions that will hopefully alleviate some of this pain. In some situations,
So
one
we are
feels
ready
that
now
the pain
to listen to
should be
presenters
less.
from cluster
But
2.
it's important that if all the institutions, the private sector, civil society stick together to try and make it through this stage.
Maybe perhaps because I've requested
Yeah,
yes
quickly,
to them
yeah.
for like 3 minutes. So what exactly do you think we should do, or where should we put our energy in so that we can be able to achieve this vision 2030?
Well, let me put it this way. We have been discussing over the last 2 days of what we feel are the gaps and constraints for the inputs necessary to achieve structural transformation. So that includes whatever and anything else is going on. And there are clear areas which we've had discussions today, and I think the chairman also mentioned that on new areas. He mentioned the creative economy as a new area. And this is not just for Kenya, this is in many African countries who do not consider the creative economy as part of the economy. And this also addresses the youth issue. Certainly agriculture is an issue. When 75% of the food is imported into the African continent, agriculture is an issue. And agriculture needs to be invested in, but invested not just on the consumption side, but on the production side. So that means investment in extension services, irrigation, infrastructure to roads, crops, pesticides, herbicides. All of these things have to be invested in. And then we were able to see some change. But as you know, as agriculture too, as you know, if you plant something, it takes time to grow. The whole process will take time, but you have to get the policies right. And you also have to be in a position to be able to review your policies, because there's no failure in identifying policies that don't work. It's, in fact, you should be reviewing your policies to make sure, constantly to make sure that they are actually doing what you want them to do. So that's very critical.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Leslie.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yes.